My name's Alan Mulholland, and I'm a solo sailor. This is the story of how I built the Wave Rover 650. 3 years ago, I refitted a 40-year-old Contessa 26 and took her on an amazing 7,800 nautical mile ocean voyage. We crossed the Atlantic twice, but a knockdown on the second crossing and COVID-19 put an end to my solo circumnavigation. So now, I'm building a new boat, smaller, lighter, but more suited for a solo circumnavigation. The Wave Rover 650. Well, Rovers, we are entering a new phase of the construction of the 650. So in this phase, it's going to be a bit of a challenge dealing with the area we have, which is only 12 feet wide by 24 feet long. Now, I also have a tiny bit of space outside, barely enough to turn a sheet of plywood around. So space is very limited, and temperature is going to be a challenge as well. Although we are showing that with the vapor barrier, 2 layers on the womb here, we are able to get the temperatures up to a point where we can effectively do the fiberglassing and the glue up. So that one is dealt with. Now, over the next few weeks and months, I'll be working on the internal structure of the 650. And that's going to require a reimagining of my workspace here, because in order to get all that work done and get it done effectively and hopefully on time, I have to really be well organized. So the first thing I want to do is get this area cleaned up so I can get a look at it, and then try to figure out a way I can store my tools and the equipment I need to proceed at a fairly good pace, because we don't want to drag this build out. We want to get on the water. We want to really take this 650 on voyages, not just one voyage, but many voyages. This is a boat that's going to be strong enough to go anywhere, and to go anywhere with long legs, meaning that we're going to be able to go on long distance voyaging away from the civilized centers, if you will, to be able to go really to the remote regions of the world. So before I can start dreaming about that, I've got to get this build underway. By that I mean the interior structure. Time to crack on. Well, getting in and out of the boat is it's a bit of a bother right now, so I'm going to build a little ladder that I'll be able to come in over the transom and just have a step ladder on the other side. So I'm just going to try to reuse some of the scrap that I have. So in this case, I just need to get a level line on the bottom. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'll just cut that on the saw. And then I'll make a second one, and we'll have the 2 supports for the ladder. So I'm just back from the saw with the piece of OSB. The angle looks pretty good, and I'm just going to mark where it intersects the transom. Good. And then, with it sitting nice and plumb, I'm just going to check and see what kind of distance we have to the transom. And it is about 3'4". So what I'll do is I'll put a step at 1 foot, another one at 2 foot, and another one at 3 foot. And that should give us a fairly comfortable, stepping distance. Kind of like what a ladder is, about every foot apart, every rung, more or less. So I'll make an identical one to this, and we should be able to do everything else outside. All right, so we brought this in from the boat. So now I'm just laying it on top of an identical piece, and the plan is just going to make a line here and cut that, and we should have two pieces that are identical. Hearing protection on. Just check our work. And in fact, they are really good. Okay, next step is to record that angle, and I'll use a bevel. And we're going to go 1 foot, 2, and 3. Very good. Oops. And do the same for the other two treads, and we should be in business. Well, that turned out pretty nicely. The only thing left to do now is put a couple of safety blocks on this to keep it from sliding forward, because it is, after all, on a very sloped floor there. So I've just cut these little pieces of 2x4 with a notch in them. Great. And I'll just do the same on the other side. Well, now I can get on with the business of building a boat.
sound like you're ready for it to be moved. Ah, I got it. Oh, okay. I would have given you a hand. I told you I would have given you a hand.
So I know earlier in the series, people were saying, wow, that's a huge shop you get to build in, but the truth is, the shop was spoken for by other folks. So this platform, that's someone else's project. This pile of lumber is someone else's. The boat over there belongs to someone. That pile of lumber belongs to someone. This is the area right here that I'm working in. And I'm sharing this with another guy. And of course, the boat is inside the womb, so that area is mine. But yeah, so it takes a little coordination. It takes a little bit of foresight and planning to be able to use this space and get anything done. Anyway, I got to crack on with this project. Now, strictly speaking, transferring the water line to the inside of Wave Rover isn't really necessary. This was something that we did when I was in the Navy on the ships I was on, because you never know. It may assist you in a damage control situation somewhere down the road, and it really only takes a couple of minutes to do. Now, in the last video, you saw me transfer the center lines from the temporary frames before I took them out of Wave Rover. And now you're seeing me use that information with my straight edge, and I'm connecting those dots to put the center line straight down the center of the boat. And that'll come in really handy as I lay out the frames. Now, in this sequence, what I'm doing is I'm opening up this butt joint, which was never glued. I'm opening it up so that I can get epoxy and filler in there to make sure that joint is sealed properly. Now, I have the saw set to 3/8 of an inch, which is 9 millimeters, because there are 2 layers of 9 millimeter ply that make up the bottom. I only need to cut through the top layer for this purpose. Now, with the seam opened right up, I can wet it out with a thin coat of epoxy, followed by a nice mixture of thickened epoxy. But first, we need to do a big cleanup. Well, this week I'd like to add 2 new names to our benefactors bulkhead. Carl Weiberg and John Heineman. So what is a benefactor? Well, these folks have made a contribution of $100 US or more to the project, and their names will be affixed to a bulkhead inside Wave Rover and will be traveling with me on our circumnavigation. Now, these donations truly are much appreciated. So join me in the next episode as I do a lot of prep work for what will be a pretty major fiberglassing operation on the inside of Wave Rover. Now, I'm also going to show you how I sharpen a chisel using a whetstone, real old school stuff. So until next time, Rovers, thanks for watching. Well, Mr. Speckles and I would like to take a moment to thank all the Wave Rover patrons whose pledges of support help power the Wave Rover project. Now, if you'd like to know more about Wave Rover's patron page and benefactors bulkhead, I have links to both those pages in the video description. Now, another way to help Wave Rover, and it doesn't cost you a dime, is by sharing our content on your social media. So now, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching. Give us one more. Brilliant.